I would like to introduce to you a man, a doctor, and a philanthropist, an innovative businessman, all these in one. Dr. Laurent Larry Leksell is founder and chairman of Electa Gamma Knife Company, and he's also founder and chairman of Leksell Social Venture. He's also a board member of Stockholm Philanthropy Symposium. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Larry Leksell.
Thank you very much, Linda. Very kind words, right? You start to understand that you're getting old and you add up things, what you're doing. Well, I'm delighted to be here and see several friends in the room. And I think we will have a great day. And Roger and the SPS team asked me to say a couple of introductory words. And first I'd like to say to Roger, where you are now. Okay, right, compliments, congratulations to what I've been doing with SPS, and the whole team. I remember the first conference, and now SPS Symposium not only has brought up these increasingly important but also increasingly engaging matters around philanthropy in Sweden. And Sweden, as I think you all agree with me, has been a little behind. I'll come back to that. But now SPS Philanthropy Symposium is institutionalized. So it's really a great place to meet, to greet, to learn and share. And thanks goes to you, Roger, for that initiative. Philanthropy is changing, and we see it here today. And well, we wish to also, like Linda did, to welcome our foreign speakers, right? We think, at least we who live in Stockholm, that Stockholm is at its best now, and we're just afraid, that the summer has already been passing, and we'll see how that goes, right? But most welcome and very distinguished speakers, and it's a good example on we will learn, see new examples on what's happening a little outside these borders, which I think is very important to stimulate the Swedish non-profit charitable sector. So thank you for coming and most welcome. Philanthropy is changing, and I think you all agree with me on that matter, And in the past, it was a little kind of either in lieu of, when nothing was available, right, or an add-on for public sector initiatives or government sector initiatives, as a complement. That's not the case anymore. Philanthropy today is institutionalized. It's extraordinarily and increasingly professionalized, even if there's more to do in that area, particularly on the collaborative side among philanthropists. And but it's also a growing awareness that it is a necessity in order for us to meet and to manage the challenges and global challenges, all the global targets, etc. We need to collaborate, and we need to add technologies, innovation, competencies, non-profits, private sector, and governments in a combined effort. To some, not so much necessarily because of lack of resources, but because of lack of competence and because the problems and challenges are so complex, right? And not simplistic anymore. In my area, one good example, Electa is a medtech company. We are the second largest provider of cancer equipment in the world. And you just see the challenges of non-communicable diseases now, And as an example, if you take in Africa, more people die in Africa today in cancer than AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. And 23 countries have no cancer care capacity whatsoever, still. So it is changing, and I think that's a great opportunity. And it also makes the philanthropic sector increasingly important for societal development. And it's recognized by global institutions, organizations, governments, etc. So it's really here to stay, but at a new, more active and competent level. This is also true for Sweden. Many of you know that the Swedish philanthropic and charitable sector, relative to our GDP, is still relative to GDP is very small compared to many other countries. Then I'm not comparing the United States, right? But also in Europe. So if you take the whole sector, leaving aside foundations, and you just take the active charitable sector, idéburna organisationer, as we say in Sweden, and you see that it's a very low level. And to some extent, that is of historical reasons, to a large extent for political reasons. And the change in attitude, we are all good Protestants, and we also have the tradition of 10% should go to charity, in the past in Sweden, like in many other countries, and religions. But with the development of the Swedish welfare state, there was an active, suppressed maybe, process of keeping the philanthropic sector a little low. To some extent, in order not to compete with the welfare state. And as a consequence, we still are the only country in Europe that doesn't allow tax deductions, right? We had it, the last one. We were the first one to take it away as well, the current government. And we have never had any tax deduction for corporate philanthropy, which makes it very difficult for public companies to actually engage systematically and with the sector in order to reach sustainability targets that we all are working on and facing. So you cannot basically, public companies, you cannot give away your shareholders' money, right? So you need to have a corporate purpose. And if it's not tax deductible in Sweden, it's not a really corporate purpose, right? That's why we are doing all these sponsorships and återkopplingar, as we say, and so forth in Sweden, among the charitable sector and the private sector. But now I think that is changing. It has already been full speed into culture. Like 10 years ago in this institution, when the then head of the museum said that we need to find private sponsors, half the board quitted. Right? Never ever, that we are going to the capitalist, right, to promote culture. Today, Daniel and the team here wouldn't survive without philanthropy. Every painting you see up here, is basically a donation, right? And each exhibition is sponsored one way or the other. There's one sector in Sweden which is still lagging behind, and this is for political. That's the social sector, right? Social sector is difficult, and that's a chapter on its own. I'm going to stop here, but this is what Leksell Social Ventures is doing. Just a word about that. So I started together with the family a couple of years ago, and we have some colleagues here in the room. Leksell Social Venture, and this is the first impact investor in Sweden to be able to provide capital to social innovators, social entrepreneurs, and NGOs and so forth, and that has been a challenge, and now we are deep into social impact bonds in Sweden to finance the customer, so the customer could buy the innovators. That's basically the idea. So, not more to be said on that. We will have a great day in front of us, Linda. Right, over to you, and thank you very much for having me, Roger.
Thank you.